My name's Andy and I'm here with my good mate Scotty,
How you going, guys?
and we are here today with the first AFL fantasy video for this channel. The fantasy site has just been opened today and we are here with our first preseason hype team early to give you guys advice and tips on who to pick for your squad in 2016. Scotty will start us off in the back line. Let's go.
With our first defender, we sure do like these GWS defenders, and it's none other than Heath Shaw. In 2015, he increased his average by 5 points to average 96.8 overall, which included 8 scores over 100 with 136, 128, 125, and 147, and I believe he should average the same this year, if not more. At D2, we have Elliot Yeo, who absolutely blitzed it in the midfield in 2015 with scores of 112, 150 and 113, but later in the year found himself changing roles. This year he should be back in the midfield with key defenders coming back for West Coast, and an average of 90 is definitely on the cards. For our third defender, we have Matt Rosa, has averaged over 90 twice in his career before and had some very nice scores in a West Coast midfield that was hard to break into. With a new team and most likely a new role off the half back this year, we should see him get his average back up around 90. At D4 we have another GWS defender in the name of Zach Williams. Nobody knew about this kid last year and is now one of the most talked about players. Held back by the vest early on in 2015, he ended up averaging 80 in his last 9 games and should average over 80 this year. At D5 we have Mitch Brown, whose highest average of just over 50 in his career doesn't sound too good and you might be a little bit sceptic, but in a new side and one that has lost a lot of its players, Brown is definitely an asset in this Essendon side. We can see him averaging over 70 this year. And for our last defender, we have none other than Mitchell Hibberd, who averaged 94 points in the 2015 TAC Cup with an average of 23 disposals and 5 tackles. He also averaged 88 in the Under-18 Champs in 2015 with an average of 24 disposals and 6 marks. He should get plenty of time and see his average into the mid to high 60s. And on the bench we have Tim Moore and Kieran Byrne, who I believe will both get plenty of game time between them and will score well, but out of the two I think Byrne is the one you should pick.
Okay, thank you, Scotty. Moving into the midfield. Our first lock, absolute lock of the midfield, is Tom Mitchell at 593k. Scored over 110 8 times last year, and that was from limited games, including a score of 142 and 163. This guy is an absolute gun and has locked himself into the best 22 for the Swans, which held him back in his career in the past. Ablett and Rocky, both Jets, heavily underpriced. Really don't need to explain it. I think both of them will average 115 plus this year. Taylor Adams rolls out in M4. Last 5 scores in 2015 were 113, 112, 102, 135, and 127. He's got a massive ceiling, and I think he could go big this year in a star-studded midfield. Joel Selwood is our midfield number 5. With Dangerfield traded in, I believe that it will take some attention from Joel, and he should be a bit more free to average around the 106 to 108 mark, like we have been used to from seeing from Selwood in the past. Brad Crouch is our returning gun this year. He averaged 92.5 in 2014 and missed the whole of 2015 due to injury. He's an absolute ball magnet who I believe can average triple figures this year. With Dangerfield gone, that opens a perfect space for Crouch to go in and get his hands on the peel. Matthew Kennedy from GWS drafted this year averaged 102 in the TAC Cup, and GWS are always keen to blood some rookies into their midfield. I reckon he could even play round 1, and he is an all-round fantasy player. Keys finishes our midfield on the field. Averaged 126 points in the TAC Cup. Loves getting his hands on the ball. Kid can do it all. Brisbane want him in the side very early, that is for sure. And on our bench, we have 2 very hyped up players, Menegola and Phillips, both ball-winning players who can find the peel on their day. If both can get a game, I think they can average around 75 plus easily. Now, moving on to the ruck department. Quite an obvious pick with Leuenberger out of the side. We have 115 plus average is my prediction for Stefan Martin. An absolute gun, and we know that without Leuenberger in the side, he does do well. Now we have Leuenberger. Speaking of Leuenberger, we have him as our second ruck. He joined the Dons in the off-season, and he has showed that he can score as the solo ruckman, posting scores of 124 and 88 last year. With Mark Jamar now named as the seventh top-up player for Essendon, it could limit his scoring, but I still think he could average around 70 to 80, which is an improvement from last year's 54. And he can go big this year as long as he stays injury free. On the bench, we have Curry and Naismith. Curry moved to the Suns in the off-season with Gorringe and Zach Smith both going as well. He becomes their only ruckman besides Nichols, and I think he can play a couple games this year, so he'll be great as an emergency. Naismith is just a
Cheers, Andy. And as our first forward, we have a old reliable one here with Dusty Martin. He can do anything, kick goals, get in the middle, find the pill, get a lot of it too, and his average reflects that. He averaged 103.5 last year and had an average 97 in 2013 and 2014. But last year, he had 13 scores over 100, including scores of 142, 150, 132, 140, and 126. At F2, we have Michael Barlow, who had a disappointing season last year with his lowest average since 2011. But this year, I can see him getting back to his midfield role from 2014 and getting his average back over 100. Now, as our F3, we have Toby Green, who unfortunately did not finish as well last year as what he did finish in 2014, only averaging 85. 2014, he averaged 124 from his last 7 games with 5 scores over 110 and 1 with 109. This year I can see him getting his average close to the 100 mark, and he's very underpriced based on potential. As our fourth forward, we have Craig Bird, who averaged 83 in 2014 but went into a different role in 2015 and found it hard to get back into best 22. With a change of clubs and now a damaged Essendon team, I believe he will easily average 80 plus. And now our last 2 forward spots, we have Anderson and Kennedy, who both found it hard to break into their sides last year, with Anderson being in a star-studded Hawthorn midfield and Kennedy being in a star-studded Collingwood midfield. With Anderson now at North Melbourne, I believe he'll get plenty of game time and will definitely get some midfield time, and I believe he will be able to go beyond 70 in 2016 as an average. And Kennedy last year only played 5 games with 2 vests and scores of 65 and 62. With more game time and a better role this year, I believe he'll be able to average near the 75 mark. And rounding out the bench for the forwards, we have Nick Comer and Liam Sumner, who will both get plenty of game time in 2016 due to lack of worth in both teams, but they may not average heaps. For me, Sumner is the better option out of the 2. All yours, Andy.
Okay, so that was our first preseason hype team of 2016. Scott, if you had to pick, who do you think out of all of our mid-prices is going big this year?
I believe Craig Bird is probably going to go the biggest for me, Andy.
Yeah, he's going to do well. Zach Smith for me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Between now and the NAB Challenge, we will be releasing our second preseason hype team, so make sure to stay tuned to that. Updates will be following that, and we will be following the NAB Challenge very closely as it comes, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video if you did, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.